All right, let's jump right in. When I say Arctic and virus in the same sentence, what pops into your head? Probably some Hollywood movie, right? Ancient plagues, melting ice, the drill. It's a super dramatic image. But today we're going to look past all that and explore the real secret world of polar viruses. And trust me, it's way more complex, way more vast, and honestly, way more important to our planet than you could ever imagine.
And yeah, that really gets to the heart of it. The Arctic Institute nails it here. This is not some simple story about a bad guy virus escaping the ice. No way. It's this deeply layered thing that involves ecology, climate science, the very engines that run our planet's oceans. So let's start peeling back those layers, shall we?
You've seen the headlines, right? Zombie viruses. That's the one they love. And look, this fear, it doesn't come from nowhere. Back in 2016, there was a very real anthrax outbreak in Siberia. It was linked to a thawed reindeer carcass, and it infected dozens of people, killed thousands of reindeer. So this idea of something ancient and dangerous waking up, it's not just science fiction. Scientists take this stuff very, very seriously. Okay, but does that automatically mean we're about to star in our own global catastrophe movie? Is a World War Z type of thing really the most likely outcome here? Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Let's push past the headlines and see what the actual science has to say. And that brings us right to our first section. We're going to separate the Hollywood fiction from the scientific fact. We'll take a look at the myths that those scary headlines create and put them right up against the reality on the ground. So myth number one, that classic movie scene where a disease just pops up out of nowhere and catches everyone by surprise. In reality, we're not flying blind at all. There's something called the International Circumpolar Surveillance Program, or ICS. It's been running since 1999. It's this whole network of hospitals, labs, health officials across 8 countries, all of them watching for any potential threats. We are actively looking. So a truly out-of-the-blue scenario is, well, it's pretty unlikely. Okay, myth number 2. The idea that once a virus is out, it's just going to spread across the globe totally unstoppable. Well, think about it. A virus needs a host to get across an ocean, and even then, it's not a sure thing it'll infect anything. And here's the kicker. Most viruses can't even infect humans in the first place. Get this. Researchers recently revived some of these ancient microbes. They call them Methuselah microbes. And yeah, they were virulent, all right, but only to amoebas. That biological wall between an ancient microbe and a human pandemic, it can be absolutely massive.
And the last big myth, this idea that we're all just doomed. Let's not sell ourselves short here. Humanity has some serious public health capabilities now. The World Health Organization's immunization programs have saved something like 154 million lives in just the last 50 years. And just think about how fast things happened with COVID-19. It took less than a year to go from first sequencing the genome to getting the first vaccine authorized. Our ability to respond it's on a whole other level compared to any other time in history.
So, okay. If a zombie apocalypse isn't the main story, then what is? Well, this is where it gets really interesting, and so much bigger than just one threat. We're going to shift gears now, away from the permafrost threat and into a whole hidden universe, this vast, mysterious world called the polar virosphere. Just look at this number, almost 200,000. What is that? That's the number of new marine viral species that were identified in just one global survey of the ocean. To give you some perspective, before this study, we only knew about 15,000 from all ocean surveys combined. This isn't just a small step forward. It's a gigantic leap in what we know is out there.
So what does a number that huge actually tell us? Well, for one, it tells us the Arctic isn't some frozen dead place. It's a biodiversity hotspot for viruses. And these polar communities, they are totally distinct from the rest of the world. Some studies show that up to 78% of the microbes at each pole are unique to that pole. And that means a huge chunk of the viruses living there are completely new to science. We're not just finding a few new species here and there, we're basically discovering entire new ecosystems. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This isn't just me being dramatic. Scientists themselves have a name for this. They call it the enigmatic virosphere. I love that term. It just perfectly captures the scale of the mystery, right? It's like we've stumbled upon a hidden continent of life, and we're just now starting to sketch out the maps.
And here's a really crucial point. These viruses aren't just sitting there, frozen in time, waiting for something to happen. No, they're an active, dynamic part of the polar world. They actually pulse with the rhythm of the seasons. They wake up and go to sleep with the light and the ice.
Which brings us to their incredible role in the whole ecosystem. Because far from just being these little agents of death, these viruses are more like tiny engines. They're actually driving the entire polar food web in ways we're only just starting to wrap our heads around.
Check out this chart. In the deep, dark polar winter, the ratio of viruses to bacteria is pretty even, about 1-to-1. But then, the summer sun comes back, the plankton starts to bloom, and the viral population just explodes. I mean, it skyrockets to 30 viruses for every single bacterium. You're looking at an ecosystem in complete overdrive, and it's the viruses that are slamming on the accelerator.
And here's something else that totally blew scientists' minds. Even though the North and South poles are literally on opposite ends of the planet, researchers found that 42% of Arctic viral groups also show up in Antarctic waters. How crazy is that? It suggests there's this ancient, deeply connected viral world out there, with shared tricks for surviving in the toughest places on Earth. So how do they manage this whole system? Well, one of their key strategies has this great name, the kill the winner dynamic. And it's as simple as it is brilliant. Viruses basically go after the most successful, most abundant microbes in the neighborhood. By doing that, they stop any single species from completely taking over. It keeps everything in balance and maintains biodiversity. See? They're not just killers, they're more like ecosystem managers.
All right, now let's go somewhere truly wild. Hundreds of meters down, underneath the Ross Ice Shelf in Antarctica. We're talking permanent darkness, crushing pressure. There's no sunlight down there, so no photosynthesis. Life has to create energy from chemical reactions. That's called chemosynthesis. And even in a place like this, scientists have found that viruses are actively programming the entire ecosystem. And they're doing it with this incredible biological tool, auxiliary metabolic genes, or AMGs for short. Here's how it works. A virus will infect a key microbe, maybe a bacterium that eats sulfur. Then, the virus uses its own genes, these AMGs, to actually supercharge the host's metabolism. It makes the host better and faster at processing that sulfur. Now, of course, this is good for the virus, but when that host cell finally bursts open, it releases this huge pulse of essential nutrients back into the water, and that fuels the entire food web. The virus is basically hijacking its host and turning it into a little nutrient factory for the whole community. It's amazing. So, after all that, what does this all mean for us, back here on dry land? Why does this hidden world of tiny engines even matter? Well, it's because these viruses aren't just fascinating curiosities. They are sentinels. They're like the canaries in the coal mine for a planet that's changing really, really fast.
And this brings us back to the most important points of this whole story. The real threat from the melting polar ice isn't some single zombie virus making a great escape. The real, and honestly much bigger threat, is that we're disrupting this incredibly complex, delicate, and vital system that we're only just beginning to understand.
Think about it. These viruses, they play these huge planetary roles. They help drive what's called the ocean's carbon pump. That's the process that pulls CO2 out of the atmosphere and buries it in the deep ocean. They help regulate the global cycles of essential stuff like nitrogen and sulfur. They keep the microbial food webs, the very base of all ocean life, healthy. So messing with this system, well, it could have consequences we can't even begin to predict. And look, this isn't some fringe theory. As microbiologist Matthew Sullivan puts it, our entire picture of how the planet works is having to be redrawn. For decades, our big climate and ocean models, they basically just ignored microbes, and they almost never included viruses. But now we know they're an absolutely vital piece of the puzzle. It's like we've been trying to understand a car's engine without ever looking at the spark plugs.
Which really just leaves us with this final thought. We have barely, and I mean barely, scratched the surface of this enigmatic virus sphere. So as the poles keep warming up and the ice keeps melting, we have to ask ourselves, what other secrets are hiding in these ancient ecosystems? And maybe more importantly, what other warnings are they trying to send us about the future of our own planet?